So how does this fly in this jar and this weird entanglement of red and white thread represent both the scientific and liberating benefits of meditation that people like the Dalai Lama radiate? We'll take a look at that in this video so you can understand how meditation can free you up. My name's Sam Roth, and the goal of this channel is to help you live a life of more focus, compassion, and wisdom. So consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to receive an update when I release a new video. So lots of videos have been made on the benefits of meditation, but the truth is most only discuss one part to the equation, the science, and miss the more important part to the equation, which we'll get into later. That being said, the scientific benefits of meditation are definitely worth talking about, and that's actually what got me involved in meditation in the first place, to where I now meditate 2 hours every single day. So what are the scientific benefits of meditation? Benefit 1 is it positively physically changes the brain. When it comes to long-term meditation practice, there's been plenty of studies on the effects on the brain, and many have found extraordinary growth in areas typically related to intelligence, focus, and compassion. And without boring you, there is a lot of them. However, one significant study by B.K. Hosel in their team in 2011 found it only takes 8 weeks for meditation to alter brain structure in a positive way. They found an increase in size of the left hippocampus associated with memory and learning, the temporoparietal junction related to compassion and out-of-body experiences, and the posterior cingulate cortex related to mind wandering. And additionally, a more recent 2019 study also found similar alterations in a related brain structure, which suggests more focus and less distraction when practicing meditation. So why did Matthew Ricard leave behind a prestigious life of science in the 1970s to move over and meditate in the Himalayas? Well, turns out it was for a good reason, considering he's now nicknamed the world's happiest man. In a famous 2004 study, Ricard and colleagues with over 3 years of silent retreat experience were hooked up to hundreds of wires to measure brainwaves, and they found that the long-term meditators have 30 times the amount of gamma waves, which are related to happiness, learning, and compassion. And more so, a recent 2019 study that sifted through 122 articles found that for students, meditation significantly reduced stress, anxiety, and depression. And if that wasn't enough, one of the biggest studies in 2014 sifted through 18,753 articles to find similar things after only 8 weeks. So that's pretty impressive to say the least, especially considering we know that anxiety and depression can bring our productive lifestyles to a crashing halt. But we're not done there. What about productivity? Now, I want to introduce our jarred fly friend in a second here, but building off meditation, reducing negative emotion, a 2019 study found that complete beginners in meditation who practice for just 13 minutes per day significantly reduced their stress and anxiety. But what was unique about this study was they actually correlated how this was affecting productivity. And sure enough, the authors found that these complete beginners in meditation who only practiced for 13 minutes had massively improved cognition. And what was crazy about this was the authors commented that even just a small amount of meditation was similar to the cognitive benefit that more advanced and rigorous practitioners were seeing with their practice. So as little as 13 minutes a day, and it can really raise your productivity. So that's pretty awesome. Okay, so how is all of this working anyway? Well, to understand that, let me introduce you to my fly friend here. Hey bud. Before we have any meditation experience, this jar represents our mind, and this fly is our thoughts. See, the ordinary person is so used to being trapped in their mind with flies, or thoughts in this example, and what's crazy is that we know that 80% of thoughts are negative and 95% of them are repetitive. So isn't that crazy to think that most of the world are trapped in their minds and don't know that with meditation practice, you can actually pull out and observe the fly like we are right now with our little fly friend here, and simply just observe and not identify with the thought. The significance of this is insane. Like, in other words, you can learn to have more focus, more clarity, less anxiety, less depression, because you see these thoughts aren't you. And honestly, I could go on and on about the benefits of meditation, the scientific benefits, like how it can slow aging, develop meaningful connections, decrease blood pressure, help you overcome bad habits. But honestly, there's something much, much deeper here if we're willing to go there. And that is if we're serious about
freedom. Like the sort of freedom that people like the Dalai Lama radiate, that if we know what to look for, we can have the same thing, which we'll get into now. But before we do that, if you're finding value, make sure to like the video because it blesses my face into the algorithm so more people can see the content. And also leave a comment as to whether or not the scientific benefits of meditation are what drove you to practice, with like a yes or a no. Because that's certainly the case for me. Like without science, I wouldn't be doing this. So how is it then when we look at people like the Dalai Lama, they just have like a pure expression of happiness? You know, what's their secret sauce that they're using? Well, perhaps this piece of tangled string has the answer to that question. Now, when I twist this string, you can see it forms a bit of an intricate pattern. And the more I twist, the more pink it appears. But more than this, the further I move away from the camera, the more obvious this pink becomes. Now, you and I both know that there obviously isn't any pink at all. Rather, it's an entanglement of red and white threads. The pink is an illusion. Right there, my friend, you just had an incredible insight into what keeps you shackled to anger, anxiety, and depression. Okay, let me explain that. See, when we begin practicing meditation with more and more depth, we begin to see that, like the threads, our emotions, thoughts, and perceptions come together to form an illusory sense of something entirely different to what it objectively is. So in other words, this string sort of represents how our thoughts, perceptions, and emotions all come together and combine to form a sense of self. So at this point, you might be asking, like, Sam, what the hell does this honestly have to do with freedom? But it has everything to do with freedom. See, when we understand the illusory nature of self and we break it down into its constituent elements like thoughts, emotions, sensations, whatever it is, we can see that they don't have power. And in our example, thoughts are just like little electrical impulses traveling in the brain with sensation in the head, right? That's all it is. And when you see it for what it is, it eliminates its power completely. Given 80% of our thoughts are negative and 95% are recurrent, this is actually a pretty big deal. And in case you're still skeptical, a 2017 study actually took the time to ask advanced meditators in the moment how they're actually doing these sorts of maneuvers that engage these perspectives. So there really is a method to the madness. And as Shinzen Young says, this is how and why people who are deeply enlightened often have expressive personalities. When someone has seen beyond the illusion of the limited self and sees firsthand, a huge amount of energy is freed up for the expression of the personality.
Now again, guys, these benefits will only happen if you have a daily practice. So if that's something you struggle with, make sure to click the card at the top here to check out a video I made on how to develop the habit of meditation, or click on one of the end screens. But other than that, like the video if you found value and subscribe to the channel if you want more like this in the future. Much love, guys. See you in the next video.